Hi, Ujjwal. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me with you.
All right, so Ujjwal, what I'm seeing is for the large spectrum of the enterprises who really want to make the most of this technological innovation, one thing that has come across us for that innovation to actually come to life, what I believe personally is AI engineering is the leverage that the companies must be having to become really successful in this. And I've been talking about it a couple of times on my LinkedIn and elsewhere as well. So I just wanted to gauge your thoughts on how do you see the landscape of AI engineering, which is still a new term for most of the people, has evolved over the years, and what role does it play into making a successful, trustworthy AI solution?
Good question. Actually, this is a very broad question. I think AI engineering is definitely new terms. There are new terms and new profiles being coined since last few months. Analytical engineering, AI engineering. I think they're extension of analytical engineering primarily from data engineering. AI engineering is more or less mix of data science plus ML engineering, kind of somewhere in the middle. I manage both AI, ML, data teams. What I have seen is for any company who wants to take the, let's say, AI journey first, and then we'll go to Gen AI. It depends on like where the company stands as of today. If the company is just starting their AI journey, I would say they should concentrate on producing results first. Do not get bogged down with too many ways of working or try to productionize everything, go through ML flow, or try to put observability around it, put too much pressure on data quality. That will all come. But if you're just starting your AI journey, I would highly recommend to just produce results, get the executive buy in first. And once that buy in is there, I think the more mature you become, you start working on these processes of are we observing our AI engineering or our AI models, let's say. So it's a journey basically where from a immature to a very mature state how we want to take that journey. Coming back to AI engineering is evolving from again very similar pattern where the ML engineers, AI engineers have to now think of not just the model which is deployed, but also the observability around it. What's the data quality around it, right? Is a model is biased or not? Are we monitoring for performance of a monitor of a model or not? No company have infinite money, right? So every company is like, okay, fine, there is a model running, and if it keeps on producing results but keep on eating a lot of dollars, you have to cut it off at some time. So that's why performance monitoring is also very important. So yes, AI engineering is I would say now leaders expect or the organization expect AI engineer to know these things to help the organization to better manage the AI model.
All right. So, Ujjwal, one follow up question for everyone around. I think observability also is a very broad term. So, can you just like give it a meaning? Absolutely.
We need to start from at least first do the infrastructure observe. Whatever infrastructure is there, is it working properly? When you are deploying something, it's running end to end, and has it failed? When we move the data, it was the data correct before when we moved to the AI model,
Okay.
right? When the model is running, your expected model is supposed to be run for a few minutes, but it is taking hours. So something must be wrong. So more from a high level infrastructure observability, step one. Once that is covered, then you go into more deep monitoring, right? Which can be covered through some observability tool, which you have to put some extra measures as well, where now you are observing the biasness of the model as well. Now you are going to observing the monitoring the performance as well. And what data goes in, like again it's a step by step process. And again I always go back to where do you stand in your maturity as an organization, because if you put all bells and whistles before even putting ML model which is generating ROI of millions or so, if not, then don't go there. If it is, and if the vision is bigger, then yes, put all these bells and whistles in.
Okay, so let's go to the organizational maturity then. Let's assume I have three categories of companies. One is on the startup level, totally new into the space, does not have anything related to AI. Second could be the ones who have been trying but are not able to scale and are reasonably mature. And third is maybe big tech players, right? The ones who have the scale at which they can literally enjoy the benefits of AI like no one else. So if these are the three companies that I'm talking about, three categories of company, what kind of levers should they pull? Like they want to assess their maturity index. How the dynamics change when we talk about these categories?
Good question. I would just add one more sidebar parallel comparison with not just technology companies, but the companies whose product is not technology. Any end user company, a retail shop, grocery shop, whatever, right? A clothing shop. And then we'll do parallel comparison in all three segments. That makes more sense because sometimes we like organizations which are not, whose product is not technology, they think very differently versus the organizations whose product is technology think very differently.
Different these two, like because I know that every company now these days is called as AI powered, AI first.
Yeah, I'll tell you, I worked in a bank,
Okay.
and in bank now, nowadays in every bank will say, oh, we are a technology company.
Okay.
And I have a thought process where I'm like, no, you are not a technology company. Yes, you are using, consuming technology. Internally, you probably have a very strong technology team, but your company is not a technology company.
Okay.
Your product is not technology. So that's why, that's how I differentiate between the two. A company who actually, like Snowflake, it's a technology company. Like there are a lot of companies, very easy to identify technology companies. Walmart, it's not a technology company. Walmart, sure, they have all these companies have a very strong. I'm in Loblaw as well, which is Canadian Walmart,
Yeah.
and they have very strong technology within the company. But we are not a technology company. Netflix started as a technology company because they were primarily putting other movies to their platform. Their
Yeah.
platform is a technology platform. Now they get into creating their own movies as well
Yeah.
or series, but they started from a technology company.
So whatever is
Now,
organic to your business, that differentiates you between a technology and a product.
exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. Exactly. So let's draw the parallel between the three segments between the two companies. I think if and I'm a startup where they do not have a AI setup yet. They're
Yes.
starting the AI journey, right? Because some startups are AI startups, they know in and out of everything.
Yeah. Yeah. So startup could be like starting actually in the space of AI.
I guess if comparison between let's take the easy one, which is let's say a small Walmart which is just starting as a startup whose product is not a technology and they want to use AI, they should only concentrate on producing results. That's it. Don't go any bells and whistles. You're just starting. You need to show ROI to your stakeholders so they'll further invest in it. If you are like a small Walmart sitting on the side trying to become big, you're just starting your journey. But in parallel, if you are trying to create a technology company as a startup and your product is, let's say, AI or data or technology, you still start small, but the vision has to be there. You should know how all the building blocks should connect. When I say vision has to be there, the person who's driving things or the team should know, okay, I'm putting a Jupyter notebook as like that in production. I'm just deploying. I'm not putting any bells and whistles. They need to know this is just the first iteration. A second iteration is coming where probably I'll put it on. If I'm on AWS cloud, I'm going to use SageMaker. Or if I'm Databricks, I'm going to use MLflow for
Hmm.
the ops, all the ops of the model. And I need to somehow monitor the direct.
Okay.
They have to keep on thinking that thought process because they are planning to sell that product,
Yeah.
right? They're not, I would still say, don't invest in everything at the beginning
Hmm.
and then produce the first output of your model.
Yeah.
Do the same thing. The difference is from a startup which is not a technology company should get AI and not think way too much down the line. Just produce results because for them, getting backup from stakeholders because stakeholders will say, don't spend money there. That's not our main product. I'm backing out.
Yeah.
So for them, ROI is very important.
I was actually about to come to this ROI component, Jwel. ROI is something like when you're just trying your idea and you're at very initial stages and trying to still somehow prove the results. How would you gauge the ROI then versus you're a little ahead in the journey and then you have more visibility? The reason being AI projects are too iterative and little more uncertain than traditional software that we build. This is actually a tough thing to crack. Like even estimating, not actually getting to a real ROI calculation, even estimating ROI is a difficult task. So, but how do you do that?
Absolutely with you. Again, it depends the maturity of the organization, the size of the organization. If it's a startup, they need to agree that maybe first 10 products, only two will actually produce a mark.
Hmm.
People does create. So for example, if I take retail, everybody understands, right? I want to bring more customers to my store, right? I want to sell more to the existing customers. So I can create an algorithm where I'll say, I want to calculate what is the incremental value every customer spent after these new offers I sent them, right? And these new offers are generated from the algorithm, let's say, by the customer based on customer behavior.
Yeah.
So these things are still easy to calculate once you have some custom, right?
Yeah.
Because you can see last 6 months customer pattern, and once you start sending new offers, you see a new customer pattern. Has there been any change or not? What I would say is, in a similar example, if you put your algorithm like the first iteration out right away and put send new offers, at least you get some idea whether the or new offers which you are sending to the customers is adding any value, right? Or stay with it 3 to 6 months. If it starts adding value, build more on it.
Okay, but the measurement cycle still has to be there, right? Because you have
100%.
an algorithm. Yeah, there should be a way for you to measure this. Otherwise, how would you do
Yes.
the ROI calculation? Okay.
Yes. Yeah. And that's why I'm saying every company who's two kinds of AI journeys, right? One is we want to try things,
Hmm.
and that's okay. Don't expect much. But the second thing is we want to show value. And until you show value, the science fair will end one day.
Yeah.
So you have to show value by finishing the loop.
Tell me more about the companies who are fine spending and not expecting anything in return.
So let's say some of the end user companies, like let's say small retailers or people who create utensils, if they're not ahead in their journey, they still have to go through that phase. Now they have only two options. Either they go with the technology companies and say, we want to do this. What product do you have for us? An AI product, basically. Buy their algorithm itself, everything set up. They still have to do the loop and it still can be, that's one of the options. But the moment they say we have to start generating something in house as
Yeah.
they have to go through at least the initial phases of fail, 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 or maybe this will pass. Go through the pains of hiring data scientists, hiring AI engineers, go through that whole cycle, have your own platform where all this can be set up. And sure, in the first few phases, there will be failures. Like, don't expect it work fine for a few months or years. So I think it depends on where the organization is already in their journey. If again, that's why I separated out technology companies versus have to go through this pain.
Yeah. Yeah. Actually, the difference is coming out really well. Okay. So the with the first stage, I understand that the ones who are still starting out in the initial stages, the difference is clear. Okay. Let's go to the next category of companies then.
Yeah, this
Right
is the most
or
difficult.
failed.
Yeah, the mid level is the most difficult one because they are established, but they are not fully established. Like they are not best of the best.
Yeah.
And both, whether it's end user or whether it's technology companies, both expect fast results because they have now the infrastructure. They have tasted the success of AI models. They have passed through that stage. They want to go really fast, but they are cautious investment. They don't have that kind of luxury like the very big techs or the very big Walmarts of the world. They're somewhere in the middle where they want to be cognizant of the cost and still produce the results. I think for them, again, my experience is, and I'll go with end user first, that's usually easier, is invest in now more platforms and MLOps. You already established, you have shown it works.
Yeah.
You have few products in your bag who is actually finishing the loop through ROI as well. So it works. Now you have to make it more robust. Now you have to, how can automate further and further and further? How can you use the existing team who already developed it to stop looking at it now? Do something else, do create more models. And how can you start automating all this flow? And that's where all these companies are. I think on the technology side, how I see is the moment they taste success is a slightly different because end user taste success, they want to make it robust, they are happy. The moment technology company tastes the successes, they want to go even fast on that.
Yeah.
Go now start selling it. How can we make it bigger than what it is already is, right? Because their product is the AI product, let's say.
Yeah.
And then they have to think of what if customer asks, how do you do ops for it? Oh, I want to see, like, is there human in the loop? How do you manage the drift,
Hmm.
right? How can they give all this out of the box solution to the customer? They have to think in a different way where customer is thinking how to apply all this. They have to thinking how to package all this to the customer. So different thought process, very similar journey. Obviously, this is more cutting edge. This is more okay. I'm okay. I want because end users are almost like very is cognizant. What's the dollar amount?
Yeah.
Because they are always comparing it with the ROI. Oh, I'm spending 10 million. I'm not even generating 10 million. What's the point? So I think that's where these two companies differ. They real the ones the technology company have to have the product. They have to go fast because they're not the only technology company fighting for that product in the market. So yeah.
Yeah. That's great. I have a follow up on this, which I'll ask once we go to the last segment of the company. The ones who are,
Okay. Right.
I think, like my perception is the ones who are actually ahead in the game are the big, having the big tech arm, like you mentioned. For them, what is it that they can do afterwards? Like, is it about actually doing something which is path breaking, innovating, something that never existed before, novel ideas, or so how their
See,
priority index differs than the others?
now let's put, and I'm just putting. It's not about Walmart, but I'm just taking an example of let's put Walmart in the end user category at the
Take
top.
that
Let's say.
example.
And it's tricky it's at every level, but with Walmart's now the problem is they have figured out a lot because they went through this journey. Now they're like, can we actually create our own product? Their people are getting into that mindset. The leaders are getting into that mindset. But where I see, like in Loblaw as well, all other companies is the top stakeholders are, no, no, we are not an AI company. We are Walmart. So,
Are you talking to Walmart people already?
no, this is pretty standard. That's what I'm saying. I'm kind of a Walmart of Canada, so I know that thought process.
Yeah, yeah.
So they're like, we are not an AI company. We are not a technology company, right? But the people, they are so mature. They're like, we can actually create a product.
Yeah.
We have figured out everything. There is at this level, we have invested so much in the platforms, in the teams, in the people that we actually are there. And I don't know whether it's going to be possible or not, but I think they are somewhere in the middle where they can actually crack it and create the AI product, or keep the way it is and keep on maturing it further and further and create new standards for other end users to follow. Basically, I think that's where the differentiation is. They know already what needs to be done. In most of the cases, they already have platforms, they have observabilities, they have monitoring. All the steps were there. They're still trying to improve further and further. Let's say from cost perspective, from ROI perspective, how can we be very specific on the ROI? Because in some cases, it's tricky ROI. We say, sure, it's generated by this algorithm. But if
Yeah.
we cut this algorithm, we still see, it's still there. Nothing has changed. So they're getting again into more details. Is it really impactful? Again, doing more research work as well.
And
And
do
then one more big change. Sorry, but one big change is all big firms on the end user side is going a lot of in ethics as well. Where the mid level and low level, yeah, they're like, no, 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 we are not there yet. We'll go to ethics,
yeah.
but let us figure it out first.
Yeah.
I think that's where human in the loop, ethics, very strong privacy. You'll see in a very big firm, like in Loblaw as well, you'll see in a very strong these things because that's the evolution, right? We have figured it out. Now we have to put more privacy.
Yeah.
What about ethics? So yes, that's the one. And I don't have to say on the left side where all big techs, where are they? Like everybody knows they are going way too big on it,
Yeah.
not stopping for anything. So yes, that's how I compare all this.
That's actually a good comparison. And before I go to the one topic of your interest, I'll just say ethics. When you mentioned, right, you must have seen my eyes twinkling because that's not putting a lot of emphasis over the past few years. And I collaborated with LinkedIn Learning, made a course on AI governance, and that's precisely the line I used there. It's still on my mind is that AI governance, ethics, responsible AI, trustworthiness, data privacy breach, and all those things that concern everyone among us, right? These are generally the last thoughts that governance can be taken care towards the end. I think that's something that should be the one of the key early factors or criteria to decide what even initiatives you're going to pick in your organization.
I think you're absolutely correct. Governance should be part of, let's say, governance should be there since the beginning,
Yeah.
not should be an afterthought in the end.
Yeah.
But it's a harsh reality, true, too, where everybody understands it should be there in the beginning, right?
Yeah.
But because every organization have, let's say, limited setup, right? And they're like, where should I spend? To create an AI model, I probably need X number of engineers, X number of data scientists, product managers, some analysts, some architects. Like a big team is required to do everything because you have to bring in data as well, data quality as well, a lot of things end to
Yeah.
end. How I say this way, and it's no offense to any governance team in any organization, but have you seen any governance team of an equal size to data or ML team?
No, not at all.
Because I've rarely seen governance teams big enough.
Yeah.
And that's where I say the vision, the culture of the organization is so important.
Yeah.
That if the team is so small and sitting on the side, they're saying you have to do this, you have to do this. An engineer, I last 20 years I'm working with engineers.
Okay.
That's the by trade I am. They don't think about it. They think what I have to do. I have to make this work. It's an engineer, governance is always an afterthought. Once
Yeah.
things are set for him, right? We have to change that thought process. And that's why the comparison between small, medium, large. Large because they've already reached the place. If their new engineers are also coming, they know they have to take care of the governance.
Yeah.
Policies are set. The
Yeah.
platforms are set. They have already there. The governance is already there at every step. But once you are starting, your governance team does not even exist right now. You
Hmm.
have to create your governance team who can put all these policies in. And that time, the, the leader is thinking, let me at least produce an output. We can put the governance because sure, governance is there, but what if it doesn't work? Nothing works,
Yeah.
right? So I get it. I'm with you where I say governance should be there as part of the whole steps because lot of mismanagement already happening once you reach the final stage.
In your experience so far, do you think that this weaving this as a mindset or the culture into the company, whose responsibility is it? The leader's responsibility. Somebody has to start the chain, right?
I think it's everybody's responsibility who's at any data leadership, ML leadership, data governance leadership. It's a combined effort. My experience.
Who's gonna drive it, or at least so have that seeding part done?
I think driving perspective, there has to be a separate governance and AI arm, like governance or ethics arm,
Yeah.
who actually can push things. Has to be there. Reason being, if I am, let's say, and I am a data ML leader since so many years now, my first priority is platform, is engineering, the architecture of the platforms. How can I help the business? How can we generate the ROI? It's not governance is not the first thought comes to my mind, right? But if there is a peer governance leader is like, no, no, you cannot do it to pass through this. I think that is necessary.
Yeah.
Because as engineers, we always fall back to let's finish it off and we'll afterthought, right? Afterthought. We'll bring governance in. We'll
Yeah.
bring it in. We'll bring it in. But if they become the part of the process, for that to happen, they first have to have a separate leadership whose primary accountability is governance.
True.
Once that is there, then I'll say it's a combined responsibility because now everybody needs to own part of it. But in absence of that, sure, organizations still doing it. Everybody can do it too. But it's always be the afterthought.
Yeah.
Let's finish things first and then bring somebody in and figure it out later on. We want that person who can be like a pain for everybody to do it.
Yeah. And one point that you're rightly raised, Ujjwal, is, and I think this should be put out somewhere in bold, is that for each thing, there has to be one person who's fully responsible for that, and which is accountability. You have somebody who's going to look after the data part of it. There is an AI arm as well, and then you have ethics and governance. Let everyone have their own expertise. You have your peer leaders with whom you're going to collaborate and then deliver results, which is, I think, the core theme of our discussion today, delivering results, right? We have to ultimately drive everything, and nobody can live in silos. A data governance cannot live in silos. Same as AI governance. They have an intersection, which is good, but you need that processes set in place by that accountable leader to drive it end to end and drive it successfully. So I think that was the only last point that I wanted to make, Ujjwal, here. Any parting thoughts on this, and then I'll just close for the day.
No, no, you're right. I think, and it's a journey when anything new comes in. So if you see C-suite never had CIOs in the beginning.
Yeah.
But now CIOs are so standard, right? Everybody have a CIO. 5 or 8 years back, 8, 9 years back, nobody heard of CDOs.
CDOs, yeah.
Now it's getting pretty standard. There is a CDO, although a CDO journey in an organization is less than 1,000 days, very standard.
The particle, yeah.
Yes, but now CDO is a pretty standard too, right?
Yeah.
I think chief AI officers will be pretty standard in few years.
Okay.
It's a journey according to me. Like in the beginning, when these things comes in, it's difficult to accept like why a CIO cannot do a CDO. Same question,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So why a CDO cannot do AI as well? Sure, but I think the way it evolves during the years, we reach a place where there will be a space for chief AI officers in almost all organizations. That's how I see it.
That's great. So I'll have another session with you when CIO becomes a norm, but that's something another day. Thanks a lot to Ujjwal for coming. It was great having your views on all things AI engineering. Yeah.
No, nice to be here and good discussion with you.